Hello, welcome to the Impersonal Opinion Podcast, the podcast where we don't take our opinions personally. I'm Chandler Klebs, and I'm here with Anthony Bishop, George Ortega, Poffo Ortiz, and wsdtime.
Yeah!
I knew he would do that, so I did him last, guys, because he always says, yeah! So anyway, we were just talking about some things, and we've been talking about how we can personally make the world better. And Poffo had the suggestion where we talk more about, well, what are we doing in our lives to make the world a better place? Whether that's just on a small scale with our family and friends and local, or whether you are doing some massive activism like making a documentary or donating millions of dollars to charity. I mean, we all have different abilities of what we can do to improve the world and different causes and motivations that we care about. So perhaps we could go around, we could figure out which order to do it. Each of the co-hosts could talk about, their goals in their life and what they do on a regular basis to make the world better. So which order would we start in?
I could go first. Had the idea, but
Yeah.
I don't want to talk too long, so you guys cut me off if I end up rambling.
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds good,
Yeah.
Poffle. That'll buy us time to figure out what we're gonna say.
Yeah.
Well,
what we're gonna do is we get off subject as we always do.
Yeah, but the Impersonal Opinion podcast is the place where that happens and it turns out great.
Oh, okay.
basically, if you guys know me or any of the listeners know about me and the work that I've done for the last 3 years, I've been trying to establish a real world movement based on pantheism that includes biocentric ethics. It includes ethics and morality and just ecological awareness, environmentalism, animal rights activism. It delves into all these different things, which I don't want to talk about. I just want to talk about what I'm trying to do. So keep me focused here. I'm basically trying to start, an organization or a movement that is kind of like an alternative to religion that can serve humanity in a sense where it helps people who are seeking that sense of community. They want fellowship. They want to have like kind of the religious experience without all the trappings of dogmatic fundamentalist religion. And
All the baggage that comes with it, basically.
yeah, all the doctrine and all the the fear inducing, guilt promoting, everything that goes along with the Abrahamic faiths. So essentially, it's pantheism 2.0. Like pantheism given arms and legs and feet. And I've got a website where I've got a collection of all my writings. I've got up to like 23 some articles now that are really taken. They're portions taken from my book. I'm a writer. I'm an author. I've got a bunch of books that I've written that I'm trying to get published. I've got a YouTube channel where I've collected like over 120 some videos that are all pantheist related, and they all have really inspirational, educational material and anything that's sort of pantheist related that involves environmental ethics and deep ecology and spiritual naturalism, essentially, just to educate people and to help people. And it's a great medium. It's a great resource that you can just share the videos and you have all these visuals that can tell the story. I've got a meetup group that's kind of been pretty much a failure in Los Angeles, that I've only had a few people show up. People in this area just really aren't interested in pantheism. They have their own sort of cultural conditioning and they have their own agendas, and everybody here is just focused on their career and ambition and making money and stuff. So it's not a good area for that. But I've still got the meetup group, and I've tried to meet in places like Griffith Park and go for hikes and stuff. I've been involved with the Zeitgeist movement. I'm friends with the leader of the chapter here, and I've tried to get them kind of understanding the concept of biocentrism and how everything that they're about is really a life-centered philosophy that sort of espouses this sort of an interconnectedness, and that we're all in this together, and sort of a systems model, mentality, a systems theory. Trying to think. So I've got all these different projects. I've got the Facebook groups. I've got Biopantheism, my Facebook group, my main page, almost up to like 500 people now. And essentially, I'm just teaching and promoting this sort of alternate form of religion, this alternate meta-religion that just centers around pantheism, but emphasizes the life aspect and biology and science and logic and reason. And it gets there's doctrine and there's sort of speculation and there's extrapolation built in, but I won't get into that. It's just an extension of pantheism. It's a very specific codified form of pantheism, because pantheism as itself is not. It's kind of a nebulous philosophy that everyone has their own take on it, and it's never really been organized or structured. So that's what I've been attempting to do with that. So I mean, I write, I try to produce the material. I've done the podcast with you guys. I'm going to start doing my own podcast soon called Sacred Places. That's going to be all about the sort of the process of inspiration and what it is like tapping into that sort of that divine essence and experiencing the numinous, and what it is about sort of holidays and nostalgia and the sentimental quaint things that really touch us like on an emotional level. And I want to explore like mythology, the power of storytelling, all this kind of stuff. So I've got a lot of different projects and a lot of different things going on. I'm also a vegan. I'm also a vegan activist. I don't go out and protest and stuff, but I mean, I speak about it very regularly. I'm involved in probably like 10 to 15 different vegan groups, and I share videos and I share material and information. So that's a huge thing, is just supporting and promoting the vegan movement. I'm trying to think. I'll probably think of some other stuff as we go along, but yeah, basically that's like a good gist of it. Is I'm just trying to use my writing and my skills sort of as a communicator to educate others and influence the world in a positive way, like through sharing videos, through sharing my articles, and just speaking to people, actually counseling and playing therapist a lot of times for people who are coming out of sort of the oppressive religious systems that have like harmed them psychologically and emotionally. I do a lot of sort of one-on-one kind of therapy, through group chats and sometimes personal messages. And in my life, I've studied psychology and philosophy for a long time, so I got a lot of background in that, and I end up just basically talking to people and helping them through issues like anxiety and depression and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a good sort of a good sort of roundabout perspective of what I'm involved in and what I'm trying to do.
All right. I guess I could go next. Basically, I mean, I started working on happiness years ago. I did a TV show back between 2003, 2006, but I moved away from that. And then in 2010, I started a free will illusion meetup in Manhattan. So like I still do that once a month in Manhattan. Then about 3-4 years ago, I started running happiness meetups in Manhattan, and I still do that once a month. But then like about almost 3 years ago now, I started one here in White Plains that runs once a week. About 5 months ago, because like the idea is like with happiness, when researchers ask people what their number one source of happiness is, it's always other people. So this new meetup is called People Who Need People, Exploring Relationships. It's about trying to like reach out, enlarge our circle of friends, acquaintances, and then improve the relationships we already have. And it's a much, much more popular group, interestingly, than the happiness group. Happiness group is very popular. But all right, so like I was doing that. I wrote a couple of books on free will, this podcast and stuff over the last years. I still do a TV show here in White Plains about the illusion of free will with Chandler and Nick, and then I also do Nick's show in Manhattan. But here's the thing. What I'm segueing now from trying to do, because all that stuff is about trying to teach people, trying to persuade people to a certain position, whatever, which is fine. But like, I think I'm beginning to like recognize that there, at least the way I've been doing it, it has limited reach. And so like, I'm kind of like now just.
Or nobody listens.
Well, not enough. Yeah. Or if they listen, they don't understand. And if they understand, they don't accept. So it's like, this whole free will thing might take a decade or two for people to really get it, to really understand how important it is. So what I've done now, what I'm working on now is like Gandhi once supposedly said that his saying was like, "Be the change you wish to see in the world," right? So so basically, what I'm working on is like my most recent project is to try to become more enlightened. And so like the first step in this is like, what is enlightenment? So I kind of like begun to explore that. It's got to include happiness, goodness, the right perspective on reality. Like, for example, like I'm not sure a person can be very enlightened if they believe that they have free will. And I'm not sure a person can be very enlightened if they're not a vegan. So there's certain criteria and all. So like I'm working on that. And then, I guess the hope is that by you know by working on myself, maybe somewhat indirectly, I can actually contribute more to creating a better world. So
Right,
that's pretty
I
much.
agree. Yeah, perfect yourself and just be the example. Lead by example, and see if it's more conducive that way to affecting change.
Hey, Chandler.
Yeah. Okay. Those were really good introductions of you and your stuff, Poffo and George. Okay, so I'm Chandler Klebs, and a lot of people who have followed me probably already know a lot, but in case the people are coming across this, basically, I'm kind of the dude who does a lot of the work behind the several different podcasts that we do. I the Free Will Science of Religion, and then this is the Impersonal Opinion podcast, and then I do the Celibate Vegan Compadres with Monique Lukens, and basically you could say that the podcasts are the only time when I actually engage with other people, aside from just working my job at Hy-Vee, where I sack groceries and bring in the carts and stuff, and then I help my mom around the house with whatever she needs. But so what's interesting is that most of what I do it is pretty much online, you could say. I've been like educating people on veganism. I share a lot of stuff on social media, like vegan documentaries and stuff, and then like like I and the friends that I know, I happen to be able to tell them stuff like, like where to get your protein. Like there's a lot of people still believing the protein myths and think that they have to eat meat to get protein. And also I'd like to mention that because I'm a determinist, and I understand that free will is an illusion, it really really helps like vegan activism, because you're not coming across at people like, I don't have that view of people like, oh, you're choosing to be cruel by killing animals and buying meat. It's like,
Yeah, because I can tell you that would never resonate with people.
right,
Like they
you're
would
right,
actually
Will.
despise you.
Exactly, Will. It
I
does
know I
not
would.
work. It doesn't
Yeah,
work.
the anger and the sort of vitriol is not there, and that definitely helps, because so much of the vegan movement, there's so much emotion involved, and people are just enraged, because of all the atrocities and because of what they've exposed themselves to, because of what they know. So it really
Yeah.
helps to be able to have that sort of equanimity and not let people's reactions and responses like get to you and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Because here's the deal, guys. I believe really that it's impossible to be an activist about veganism or any other topic of importance if people feel that you're blaming them. Because if you come across it all judgmental and blaming them, and acting as if they chose to be evil or whatever, that just puts them off and they run away from you. You never influence them. So in a sense, for me, like the whole, basically free will incompatibilism, or determinism, because they're slightly different, goes along with the veganism very nicely, because otherwise, I'd just be the same as all those other vegans that are full of hatred. Um, and because that's just it, is I feel that both things are very important, like, because that, of course, that's why I began the Free Will Science Religion podcast. That's how I met George. That's how I actually met almost all these people that I do these shows with, is because I really understood how that would change the world, where we are able to talk more openly and calmly when we're not blaming each other. And so instead we just try to, like George mentioned, Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. So my idea is to live that way, have a good time with your friends, educate your friends on these important things in a totally non-threatening way whenever possible, you know. And so it basically, I care about a lot of important causes, but I'd have to say like the veganism is probably like the top priority personally with me. Although some of you guys know I care about some other things too. Like in general, like I'm anti-violent. I really don't want there to be a military. I don't want there to be wars. Don't want there to be abortion. I don't want there to be any form of killing, because
Yeah.
because really I know other people don't feel quite as uncomfortable about it as I do, because I have like really high empathy. But there is something about taking somebody's life that you can't give back to them. And ever since I became atheist, because I saw through, the nonsense of Christianity, and then it became all about this life, which is the only life I have evidence of, all of a sudden killing became the worst thing in a sense, because that person is never coming back.
Yeah, there's so much of what you're saying, Chandler, that's just sort of triggering in me, like other things I want to say. But I want to get to WSD, and I even want to say a word about Jamie, even though Jamie's not here, because he's really big on the Venus Project and promoting just a sustainable future and permaculture, and doing away with the monetary system, this planned obsolescence, and just the corruption in government, and so many of us we feel the same. We're all there's a cohesion there between us that we all agree on these things. So it definitely, so much of what you're saying is tapping into other things that I wanted to mention. But go ahead, WSD, if you're finished, Chandler.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, lately I just noticed that we should have started this 30 years ago, but why? I feel like, why don't we have more electric cars on the road?
Right.
There's a
Right. Well, yeah, the
documentary about
technology
that.
was there. Yeah, it was already
Yeah,
there.
it was there since like the 80s, and yet we haven't used it. I blame the corruption of the policies and money and all that. But
well, it's the government, isn't it? They're making more money so they can kill the human race off and all of that, and then they can bring in the lizards and all that instead.
Lizards?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, guys,
lizards.
There's a documentary called "Who Killed the Electric Car."
Like sort of humans versus aliens.
Yeah, oh yeah, about that. I saw that documentary, by the way. And
okay, hey, focus. Finish up, WSD, and then we get to Anthony. To talk about what you're doing and what how you're contributing or what you'd like to do.
It's small for right now, but I've been uploading. Like I went to other day when I went to an auto show, I filmed this thing called the Tesla car.
Yeah,
I looked it up and showed all the features and all that.
My friend drives one.
Yeah, I show how if you bought this, it would like actually leave less of a carbon blueprint rather than getting a car that runs on a combustion engine.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd rather If I could, I would get the Tesla. But then
you're all about promoting the advanced technologies, the clean energy, and the more
here's another
the
thing
new technology.
And here's another thing I like about SEPTA. They keep like electrical things on the road. They still have Philadelphia. They still have their trolleys on their tracks. They have to if you go to the northeast of Philadelphia, they still have trackless trolleys running. And right now, their newest bus is coming out next year. It's gonna be they're gonna run on electric. Not similar. It don't have an overhead, but it's like it runs on a battery. It's no emission. It's zero emissions basically.
Right. Yep. That's good stuff. I mean, it's all about who's in charge, in order to make the transition. I mean, I've seen it just in my lifetime, though. From the hybrid cars to electric. I mean, it's happening. I mean, people are waking up and they're much more environmentally conscious, and they're geared. Everything is geared toward these clean technologies. But like you said, I don't know if it's is it too little, too late?
But see, that's the thing. With me, I understand we're at 400 parts a million. I understand that. But we're going to hit the wall regardless. But here's the thing. I said this before. Why not hit the wall at 30 miles an hour rather than 130 miles an hour?
Yeah,
that's a
That's
good
the way
point.
I see it.
The less we do, the worse it gets. So, it's not like we have a choice.
Right. We can only,
like I said,
do what we
like
can.
I said, we're going to hit the wall. Why not hit the wall at a reasonably slower velocity?
Sure.
Yeah.
And like I said, and you got people. You'll see who Trump put in his administration. You'll see.
Yeah.
They talk about, oh no, he's going to drain the swamp. Yeah, you see when he put in his administration. Yeah,
I'm gonna plead the fifth on that. I don't want to talk about politics.
Yeah, I agreed there. But
I know, but that's just an example. That's what I'm saying about taking steps like that.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it's what he put in his administration.
Maybe it's time for us to realize that the government's not the answer.
Yeah,
Leadership's
absolutely.
not the answer. It's the common man. It's the people. It's the collective that actually is going to make a difference, and not our elected officials who really we never elected.
Yeah, but regardless,
people power.
That's why I'd rather live in the Venus Project or a more resource-based economy and get rid of the monetary system.
Right.
I'd rather live that rather than what we're doing now. Oh, God knows what we're doing now.
Oh yeah,
I don't believe in God, but
I think we would all try and promote an ethics-based economy, a resource-based economy, something that makes more sense than the paradigm that is in place now.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if there's anything else, WSD, or do you want to move on?
That's why I feel. I feel like I said, we're gonna hit the wall, but like I said, why should we hit the wall at 130? Why not hit the wall at 30 and do as little damage as possible?
Sure.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that that's a very good goal, the clean energy, people reducing pollution, because climate change, it's not just about climate change, although climate change is like the biggest threat ever, which I think everyone that does podcasts we know that, even though politicians and the public doesn't. But there's a lot more to the clean energy thing than just the fact that it's contributing to climate change, which will kill us all. It's just to have breathable air for one thing. We don't want all that gasoline,
Of course. I think the biggest threat to humanity, to society, is our inhumanity. It's immorality. It's apathy. It's bad parenting. It all comes back to ethical and philosophical notions.
I agree.
That's where it starts, and then all the external action will follow suit. But okay, so let's stay focused, Anthony.
One more thing. That's why I say I believe when Bernie said this, we gotta treat that climate change as a World War level threat.
Yeah, he was right on. And Monique, if Monique was here, I mean, she does a lot of activism. She's all about the Bernie Sanders campaign, and she's been trying. I didn't actually hear the podcast last week or whatever, but I know that you guys talked about that. So I know that she's doing her part on a civil level, speaking and promoting Bernie and Bernie's ideals and stuff. So she does a lot with that.
Exactly.
So go ahead, Anthony. Shoot.
Oh, hi. My name's Anthony Bishop. I've got a YouTube channel which I've been promoting numerous videos on about alcoholism and homeless people and all that on a few of my videos. Not recently, but I'm going to be doing more for it for my YouTube channel, because what really upsets me is with homeless people on the streets trying to defend themselves from the governments, and they can't do anything about it because the governments are ruling everything, and basically people are dying on the street because of it, because of the code and all that. And why can't we have a system where everybody's actually in their homes and stuff, have a home to go to, rather than actually getting pushed out of it because of bedroom taxes and all this other kind of stuff, running out of food because they can't pay the bills, so and they can't eat food as well, so they end up dying of starvation. And there's this bloke that Jamie brought in about the other day. Apparently, he actually starved to death, this military soldier, because he couldn't afford the food and all that. And then he got kicked out of his home and all that because of it. And it
So
really,
sad.
yeah, it really
Yeah,
pisses
that's
me off
fucked
to the
up.
point that basically a person who's served in the armed forces or something like, who's got like disabilities and all that, ends up getting thrown out on the street or gets starved to death because he apparently died in his home due to starvation because he didn't have enough money and all that, because the government wasn't helping him at all on it. And it's also, I blame the alcohol as well, like on some people when they go out on the street as well, because I've seen a lot of people when they're begging for money, as soon as they get the money, they go straight into the pub, and it's all because of the alcohol and that as well. Like the majority, I would say probably 65-70% of people are on the street because of addictions in the first place, and the rest of like the 35-45% is mostly genuine people who just get thrown out of the houses because their family members can't keep them no more, so they end up just putting them on the street. Now, what
So
I'm trying to
yeah.
do is I'm trying to promote my channel so that more and more people are actually taken off the street and put into homes and all that, where they're safe and secure and all that.
I think that's great, man. I mean, definitely. So your angle is like the substance abuse problems and the kind of like escapism and how people turn to drugs and alcohol, and then of course the humanitarian sort of issues of it's really a mismanagement of resources. You know, the people who are in positions of authority, people who are in charge, who don't care about the general public, are just
Yeah, it
hoarding
doesn't
wealth
happen
and
to them, so why should they give a fuck?
Yeah, no, they
right,
have their
right,
own homes. They have their big
yeah.
houses. The MPs have got big, massive houses, and then you've got the Queen, who's got like 600 bedrooms in her palace. And I'm thinking, okay, there may be a amount of rooms that she's got for her people, but if she's got so many more left rooms, say if she's got 200 or 300 bedrooms left, how come she can't take any of these people off the street and put them in her palace? But
It's
then
ridiculous. Yeah.
it's
There's
ridiculous.
no reason anybody should be homeless. I mean, we have the resources, we have the technology. We could be feeding and clothing and sheltering every person on planet Earth right now.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
it's
all
like this.
this
Oh,
stratification it's created, definitely.
yeah, it's like Ethiopian or this like African countries. They're saying, oh, there's a lot of people out there still starving. I'm thinking, well, all the resources we got, all the amount of money that the government has got, they've got enough money there just to feed the whole world population. But they choose not to because basically they want to be corrupted and want to actually put these people in that position. It's ridiculous.
So there's two issues that keep coming up here. I see it's what you have
Yeah, I have a
is sort of
cousin that's fucking homeless.
it's a lack of ethics. It's a lack of empathy. A sort of it's the character of humans. It's that they've not developed in terms of ethics and morality, so that they love and care for their fellow human being. And then the second thing is the system itself. If you got rid of money and the ability to hoard wealth and
There would be no greed and
accumulate
all that.
power, right? Just give people their basic necessities, give them what they need, and watch how things will flourish and resolve themselves. But it's
Yeah, give them a basic
scarcity.
income.
It's
Yeah, I think,
scarcity
Poffo, the thing is that, like, in order to the second part about providing for people, I think we've come to the point where we have to first do the first part. The way human beings are today, we're just not good enough. So like, we have to make us better people, so
good.
then we'll
Yeah,
start doing more
internally.
of the right thing.
Yeah, good internally. So that goes back to that. All these things to me go back to the ethics and philosophy, which maybe this will all tie in, George, because you said just teaching and trying to educate people is not enough, and it's like they're not getting it. But what is it that actually what causes people to cling to really strong belief systems? It's sort of emotional. It's always these sort of poetic, nostalgic, emotional, sort of passionate experiences or sentiments that actually are the most enduring. So what we're actually talking about is the thing that I want to get rid of, but I want to, create an alternative of, which is religion, a spiritual belief system. If you have a belief system that literally, it's not that it's teaching you how to do something, or it's telling you what to do, or it's like a list of laws, of commandments, but it's literally a perception. If you have a certain perception of life, of living organisms, of the natural world, of your fellow human, then it changes everything. Then your ethics and your morality flow from that, because we're not talking about trying to inculcate someone and indoctrinate them. We're literally talking about changing perceptions. If someone's perception,
but part of that, Poffo, is like,
yeah.
We have to actually recondition us, because we're already conditioned, but we're conditioned by our parents firstly, and then by the educational systems to compete with each other. Now, the thing with that is, like, when, let's say, a couple of 100 years ago, whatever, and before that, so much of life was about survival. So we have this Darwinian kind of aspect of us that we basically compete for limited resources, and so fine. It made sense there, like, to teach us to be so competitive. But in today's world, we have much more than enough resources to provide for everyone, but we haven't kept pace with that. In other words, like, we need to shift from a competitive mindset, and this can be part of the religion you're referring to a cooperative mindset. And this has to do with reconditioning, because we're already, the marketing, the media conditions us, the education system conditions us, and the politicians condition us.
Carnism. I mean, it's carnism. It's the belief in the distinctions, that we have these ridiculous distinctions of race and ethnicity and all the things that divide us in politics and stuff like that. So I agree, absolutely. Yoda said it. You must unlearn what you have learned.
Actually, in a way, you could, with religion, instead of actually abolishing religion, because apparently religion's a part of what's happening into the world and all that, just improve on it, just make it better.
There you go. That's what I'm trying to do, man. I'm trying to create an earth-centered, an earth-based, nature-centered, spiritual awareness that is based on reality. For me, it's based on reality. It's based on the extraordinary, miraculous qualities of nature, of this universe, of the natural world. And once people become aware of these things, they're inspired, and they understand that we're not teaching people to act like they're connected. We're teaching people that they really are connected, and we're not teaching people that that we're all equal and nothing is above anything else. It's like we're showing them. We want to show them that is really where we stand. That's really how how life operates. That it's an interconnected system.
Yeah, that's a good point, Poffo.
Reverence.
That's a really good point, Poffo, because we're not just telling people to pretend as if we're all connected. We really are. Like, we're not just spewing out a bunch of lies thinking it'll promote better behavior, which I think other religions do that. They think that by promises of heaven and threats of hell in the afterlife, that will inspire better behavior. Although I have yet to actually see that work.
It's crowd. Well, no, it works on a certain level. It's crowd control. It's crowd control, and it's using the externals and systems of reward and punishment, and using guilt and fear to basically
abusing them and the system. That's what it is.
Control people's behavior, and manipulating them, and absolutely, and then it ends up.
That's why you see these riots sometimes go on, these protests go on, and then police are getting involved, and the establishment are actually getting protected by these police, actually attacking the people, the good people who are doing the protesting, and it's ridiculous and it's disgusting.
Yep. So just like the other day where I saw people get sprayed with cold water, and it was like 17. It was like 20 degrees.
Oh, was that in North Dakota?
Standing Rock, yeah, they're spraying them with the fire hoses and stuff, and one girl almost got her arm almost ripped off, and people have hypothermia, and the temperatures are like sub below there. It's like freezing at night, and again, this is called structural violence, as Peter Joseph would term it.
And it doesn't solve anything.
No, because it pits us against each other. It's divide and conquer, like it pits the people who could be working together, because the police are just public servants, and they're supposedly, upholding the law, which protects
Yeah,
the rights of the individual,
protect and
and it ends
serve
up
basically, but
it,
But
it does
they
the
think they're
opposite.
above the law.
So I'd like to just explore this just for a moment, and then you guys can take it in whatever direction you want. Like, what is it that truly motivates and inspires people? And I would say it's the religious experience. It's having like an emotional, sort of life-changing, in an experience of enlightenment, of there's something that completely shifts your paradigm and causes you to rethink your entire worldview. So can we cultivate this? Can we like tap into this? Can we like sort of create and structure environments, or whether it's through ritual or through some kind of methodology where we can bring out the best in people by allowing them to tap into their divine nature, which when I say divine, I mean their higher selves, their the most noble, the most the most decent aspects of who they are,
You
like their
could say
highest
their better
ideals.
nature, right?
Sure, yeah, their better natures, that whatever it is, and that's what religion does. That's why it's so successful. That's why it's so influential, because you have these personifications that represent the highest ideals. Whether it's Buddha or Jesus or whoever, they represent the highest
unicorn.
ideals of. Oh, sure, the My Little Pony, in cartoons and mythology and comic books, we've talked about this many times, that like there needs to be that kind of storytelling or mythos that allows people to make that jump, to the ineffable, because the ineffable is like the ultimate, like the Dios, like the omnia, what I would call it, like just the highest supernal qualities that humans
Right.
can
When
manifest.
when we're trying to do that, what we have to keep in mind is that there are two groups of people. One group that I think we're a part of is relatively very small, and basically we're single. We don't have families to provide for. We can like access this spirituality much more directly because we don't have this, like if most people are part of a family, let's say they're the parents. So basically they have to raise their kids and they have to keep the family together. So this involves two different strategies to access the spirituality. We can access it, I think, more directly through the philosophical. They have to access it a bit more practically. They don't have the time to immerse in philosophy and all this stuff.
Yeah, this is a great point. So what the distractions and the responsibilities, the obligations that most people have to their families, to be caregivers, absolutely. So there, to those who are sort of bogged down with the pressures and the responsibilities of life, what can we do to reach them? And then you've got the philosophers and the thinkers, the free thinkers, and those who have sort of been fortunate enough to their lives are more open, and they can explore these topics, and they can read and research and develop themselves internally. So yeah, two modes, two methods. I would still say that like storytelling and communication using visuals, using media, whether it's films, documentaries, books, like it's all about communication, and whatever it is that works and taps into the deepest parts of who they are, the deepest desires of their heart. Those universal archetypes, I think, need to be sort of accessed and cultivated, and then I think it'll reach everybody, because everybody, it's a universal experience. Human beings, this is a universal experience that we're having. So we all suffer the same losses and heartaches and disappointments. We have the same desires. We have the same inclinations toward self-preservation, and sometimes greed, and sometimes kindness and altruism, and there's the experiences of life that we go through. So like that's why religions are so successful, because they sort of mimic that in terms of like a passion play, and then you identify with it, and then you literally believe whatever the supernatural claim is, that you believe the metaphysical claim, and so that's tapping into that extreme untouchable idea that you have of goodness or living forever
Should
or.
go by 8.
Yeah,
Should.
Poffo, we've talked a little bit about this and stuff, but yeah, like obviously religion has some benefits, and I think the benefits that it brings, because it plays into people's emotions, it somehow, I'm not sure how it does it because I didn't have a very good religious experience, let's put it that way. A lot of people, religion gives them positive emotions, which fulfills them and does make them behave as better people somehow, you know.
Right. It's just like I said, that's how, because it's tapping into those universal ideals. And then the problem is, as we all know, these personifications or these archetypes, these universal notions are grounded and rooted in Bronze and Iron Age mythology. So you have all the bigotry and all the sexism and racism and sort of homophobic. You have the archaic, outdated notions that go along with it, and that's what becomes the problem.
All right, let's move again.
Ideas.
Let's move from the philosophies of the practical. In other words, like in order to get, because like over the last several decades, at least here in the United States, people who have moved further and further away from congregations. In the 50s, people used to like go to church every week. Now, very few people do. So we have to understand what was responsible for that shift. Why don't people do that anymore? And how can we change religion to draw people back? Getting really practical rather than philosophical.
Fed up with the dogma. They're probably fed up with the dogma. They actually in the age of enlightenment.
What part of dogma? Because like again, when you say dogma, it's very general. What specific beliefs are they like moving away from?
I'm saying they're getting away from fundamentalist religion in terms of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam because of information, because of the spread of information, learning the history and the origins of these things, and learning about science and
education, basically
developing a more practical, logical, rational viewpoint. And so it dispels all of these superstitions, because what we're talking about is really the power of superstition as well. So superstition becomes less powerful, and they get away from it, and they realize it doesn't apply and it's not practical. It doesn't apply to the world, on a universal level, because how many people have never heard of Jesus or, will live and die, sort of inculcated in another religion and whatever cultural tradition they were raised in.
So but again, if we want to move away people back to religion, we have to understand very specifically what beliefs. For example, like what moved me away from conventional religion was the belief in hell. It just made no sense at all that some people are destined to suffer eternally. So we need to understand what changed. Yes, fine. People don't believe in the Garden of Eden. A lot of us don't. 50% of us don't. What are the beliefs that were challenging? Because if we don't get specific, then we get general, and it's very hard to address the change.
Yeah, that's the problem with religion.
Yeah, I agree, because religion means so many different things. There's so many religions that when there's somebody who criticizes religion, then all of a sudden they think that you're criticizing the good parts as well as the bad, because they've got it all mingled together as one package.
Yeah, what really annoys me though, like when you talk about religion and all that as a sort of a whole religious thing, like there's this one part saying that God is like all this this all powerful God and all that is protecting you and all this, and that when you die you go up to heaven, even if you're bad and all that, and if you're a murderer, psycho, rapist and all that, you go up to heaven and all that. But then there's this other one, like they say, oh, basically you're going to go to hell if you've done a murder or committed a sin. So I mean, which is it? Is it either one or the other?
Yeah, we all agree
it's kind of confusing.
We all agree it's completely inconsistent.
In the Bible. That's another reason that turns people off.
Yeah, so I think that's why basically religion is basically starting to fold away, and it's starting to kill off the actual dogma of it.
Of itself, it's its own worst enemy, because I want to answer your question, George. It's the evolution of human consciousness. It's that human beings are evolving and we're getting smarter, and so we're leaving all of the myths and the superstitions behind. That's the reason.
That's the general answer, but specifically, what are the particular beliefs that we're moving away from? That's the key, because then we have to establish religions with new beliefs.
Okay, well, why don't let's just jump to the next let's just jump that bridge right now, and let's talk about what we should be trying to institute and establish. Because I think we can all agree, we know all of the myths and fables and all the archaic concepts that are there. So let's talk about, if we were, like, hypothetically, if we were to institute a new religion, like what I'm trying to do in Biopan, I would say, like, we teach and we promote an awareness of reality, of science, of the natural world, and the benefits of science, the benefits of technology, the benefits of education, and not looking to a transcendent supernatural experience, but the experience that we can have in an everyday sense, with our senses. So focusing on our senses, our common sense, our logic, our reason, as opposed to, even though I think there's value in intuition, as opposed to just these sort of intuitive, the magical thinking, getting away from the magical thinking and making correlations and seeing everything as a sign and a vision and and a miracle. Like let's use our brains, because that's what's helped to advance our culture and the society.
Yeah, teach them the real meaning of it.
Right. To get more specific, for example, one thing we have to establish congregations that don't teach this belief. I mean, it's better to teach what we don't know, or just to believe, based
agnosticism.
Based on our understanding that nobody has a free will. Based on our understanding that nobody has a free will, the idea that we all, if there's an afterlife, that we all go to the best place, it would be unfair for anybody to go to eternal hell. Another belief that we need to challenge is the belief in the subservience of women. Like in Catholicism, you can't have women becoming priests or popes or anything. So
I can't tell you how many times they broke that rule.
Right. So we have to identify, and like, it's easy to be specific. Yeah, fine. We're scientifically evolved beyond this mythology, but we have to know exactly, like from a marketing standpoint, what drove people away from religions very specifically, and then what beliefs must these new religions have?
Civil rights, human rights, the value of the individual, the value of children, the value of women. It's valuing and acknowledging.
I don't think
having more.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, having more respect. Having more respect for our fellow human being. Recognizing the sameness, recognizing the similarities instead of the differences. Because that's how wars are started and stuff. All you have to do is paint someone as sort of subhuman, and they're the ones that are causing you that,
like a sort of an outcast or something.
Yeah, the out group. You just paint someone as different from you, and then put the blame on them for whatever catastrophe is happening, whatever natural disaster or social, economic, whatever you're disgruntled about, and then you have a war. So it's about understanding the model of look at the human body as all of our cells are working together, as all of the organs, as all of our systems, skeletal, structure, our muscular structure, our neurological, everything is working together. We have to look at society. We have to look at the whole entire planet as an ecosystem, in a systems model, and then we'll understand that, like, what we do to the other, we do to ourselves, and what we do to ourselves, we do to the other, and we're not isolated in this experience.
All right. Again, like, what's happened in society over the last several decades is we've become more and more isolated, alienated. Religions, churches, synagogues used to be a place where community existed, but now, it's like it's so how do we use that component? People
there are niches. There are all these niches, these different sort of groups, interest groups, and everybody gets together for whatever they might be into, gaming or hiking. But
Go ahead.
I'm trying to explain to you. I'm saying that's everything is stratified and sort of specialized. We need to cultivate and institute and establish meetup groups and organizations that are much broader and address the human condition itself, like address like loneliness and address low self-esteem and these more broader issues that are actually affecting everyone, because everything is just specialized in terms of their hobbies, their interests, whatever their likes are, and that helps bring people together, but it doesn't it doesn't
solve the problem.
doesn't take the place of religion. The way religion deals with ethics. Religions deal with ethics and morality, and they deal with these universal concepts and themes. So we need something that acts in the same manner that is providing the same sort of solidarity and hope and helping people. It's like the hippie movement. It would just need direction, and it needs structure.
Well, here's a thought.
Go ahead, Chandler.
Yeah, here's a thought. Well, you know how when someone goes vegan, it's not that they simply stop eating the meat and dairy and all the stuff they're used to eating. It's that it has to be replaced, and that person learns to eat their vegetables for the first time in their life. Like that was my case. I was the guy who wouldn't eat my vegetables. I wouldn't eat my vegetables. So when we offer a new religion or whatever we call it, we're trying to offer an alternative. We're trying to offer something to replace this old harmful way, because it's important. We can't just say, oh, here's not the way. We have to show them what is the way.
Absolutely. That's why atheism, like I believe, has not. I wouldn't say it's a failure, but it doesn't have the momentum. It doesn't have the staying power. It doesn't really connect with people, because it's just a negative. It's just saying what you don't believe, but it's not offering the positive alternative, which to me is pantheism. So again,
stability as well.
Stability.
Yeah, because sometimes if you think about it, if you got a religion, say like Christianity, how long some people can stay as a Christian, and then afterwards they're a bit rocky about it when they get told, oh, that God doesn't exist. So then you start like going off stable without stabilizers and all that.
Sure, yeah. The support groups, the psychological help should be provided. There should be like an all-inclusive sort of
package
set of programs that deal with all that. Not just I come back to the holistic thinking. That should deal with not only the psychological, but the emotional, the social, all these different things that are not addressed. Like, what's that?
The mentality and all that as well, mixed
right,
in with
right. They externally giving people ways to explore their talents and their skills and their abilities and things to do, like in physical fitness, taking care of the health, taking care of the body, focusing on health, focusing on the mind, focusing on the needs of the individual, and instead of isolating and specializing everything. I mean, our careers, vocationally speaking, are all separated, and one person can't tell you anything about what the other person is doing, but they work in the same company, they work in the same building, and that all needs to go. So it goes back to a systems model of looking at the way nature operates and learning to emulate and reproduce that in our own societal structures. You there? Anybody?
Yeah.
Crickets.
These are all good thoughts, guys. I mean, seriously, because we need an alternative to get the good that religion provides without the bad.
Yeah, because religion has a lot of baggage, and I think reason why people are getting off is I don't think it's more just one reason. There's a variety of reasons.
Sure. Yeah. I've just in my own lifetime, the documentaries I've seen, the awareness, that because of the internet, because of the advent of the internet, that's a huge thing. I mean, we have access to information like never before. So our knowledge is growing at an exponential rate.
Yep.
And more so than it ever has. I mean, in recorded history anyway. So that's a huge thing. It's just the ability to communicate and pass on information happens at lightning speed now, and that's a great asset. So teach the truth, teach science, teach an awareness, teach a love and respect for the life principle of every individual organism and of the whole, and start with that. And I feel like everything else will follow. It all comes down to our belief systems, really, which is philosophy, our outlook, the way we view each other, the way we view the natural world, and do away with all the myths and all the archaic concepts that are no longer serving us.
I hear you, but what we're talking about is the easy part. If we talk in generalities about the big picture, we have to shift from one form of understanding to another. That's the easy part. The harder part is specifically, again,
Okay, George, you've been pushing me for a while. Here, let me give you an example. So I'm gonna say this. I start holding meetings, okay? I start holding group meetings where people come over and we watch specific documentaries and then we talk about them. I highlight like the life principle. I bring up certain ethical teachers and sort of futurists and philosophers and stuff, and I'm educating sort of small groups. I'm doing lectures and I'm showing documentaries and films, and then we go out in nature and we like explore and we do something that's vigorous and life affirming, and we kind of cultivate that solidarity and the kinship we have with one another. We share meals together. We cook together. We do things together. It's starting with small groups, like doing it either like in a community center or like in a natural environment where we can cultivate this awareness.
All right.
This
So
awareness.
the question becomes then: is it more viable to create new institutions, like starting small with meetups, or do we try to like change the existing ones? Or if we do both, what proportion of our time is better spent changing the existing institutions as opposed to like creating new ones?
The existing institutions will change eventually. They will organically change and they will shift. But to try and dismantle and sort of oust what already exists now will never work. You're up against like the ultimate opposition with
No, I'm not.
total,
nobody's talking about dismantling.
Yeah.
Nobody's like, no, the dismantling is very different from helping them evolve and change.
Yeah, no, create something entirely new. Create something that's entirely new and let people expose people to it and market it and sort of advertise it and let people be drawn to you, and they will leave those old systems. I mean, everybody in like vegan groups and stuff, when I ask them about their spirituality, most of them will say, I'm agnostic, I'm atheist, or I'm a Buddhist, or some of them say that they're Christian, and they have a reinterpretation of the Bible. They're projecting and applying sort of their own higher ideals onto these outdated modes of thought. So what I'm saying is, no one talks about pantheism because they're not aware of it. So what they just go with what they know. And so since Buddhism is like a major world religion and it's more popularized, and because of the New Age movement, especially because the New Age movement has helped to popularize these Eastern philosophies, that's all they know. So they gravitate toward what is most geared toward their biocentric ideals and ethics. So put it out there that there is a model, there is a system, there is an organization, a group, a mode of thought that actually represents all this. And I'm telling you, like scientists, agnostics, atheists, free thinkers, and all the people who have left religion, all the people who are seeking this this form of this naturalistic spirituality will gravitate towards it. So that's the answer, is to create it, and they will come. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because a lot of people, like you said, Poffo, they have a way they already believe, a way they want to live. So then you just use the label of whichever religious tradition tends to be the closest to them, even though it's not quite accurate. So like for example, in one of the episodes I was doing with Monique, she was, she's I've kind of a hodgepodge, or whatever as she calls it, and she was talking about maybe she needs to start her own religion. And so it's like, obviously we need something centralized so that each person has something they can grab onto, and they don't have to all create their own religion, because we've got enough of those around.
Right. Oh, and I've dealt with it. I've dealt with it in my groups, man. I mean, everybody's kind of trying to start their own thing, and you've got like pan-meism, and you've got like every kind of like slant and sort of alteration on it. But it's good. It's a good thing, because it's do-it-yourself philosophy. You're not looking to the institutions that already exist. You're trying to establish something that's new and fresh and novel. So I'm saying, like, put it out there, man. Like, and this is another point. I don't mean to monopolize, but about pantheism. But pantheism as itself, I don't think will ever be the thing that actually helps and revolutionizes the world, because as it stands on its own, it's too nebulous and it's too open to interpretation. Like, what we need to create is something that is based on pantheism but has a different name and actually involves, so much more. Involves ethics.
To make it more unique and all of that.
Well, what people do with pantheism, in my experience, is they run the whole gamut. Well, they can be like too abstract and they can just over philosophize it, or they can like be too literal and they're just basically atheists, and they even dip into nihilism, and they hate other humans, and they see no purpose in anything. So it's too much of a nebulous philosophy, because all pantheism says is God is all. God is everything.
Yeah.
That's all it states. But taking that, what I've done is, I've sort of focused it and codified it and said, no, nature is divine. It's God is nature. God is the universe, and nature is the most important thing, and we are all a part of nature. And then naturally, organically, environmental ethics and veganism and altruism stem from that. And then embracing the new technologies, embracing the clean energies, because it's just a love and respect for life. So that's not actually in pantheism. All pantheism says is you're equating God with the universe. So you have to start with that foundation and then actually build something that is just more structured and more specific, and has
a net towards it, so they can fall into it rather than getting injured and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm involved in a group that's got over 15,000 members, probably more than that, and it's just a huge hodgepodge. It's just a mix. You get all kinds of people. You get nasty people. You get arguments. You get all kinds of horrible shit going on. And then at the same time, you have these really intelligent people, and you have these great debates, because it's just a huge mix. So I use that as kind of like a fishing tool, and I'll pull out when I see people who are really articulate and intelligent, and I can see that they have that spirit, and they really have a love for nature, and they really care about humanity. I'll invite them to my group, and I'll say, here's a life-centered form of pantheism, so like come and check out what we're all about. So I mean, it serves its purpose, but what I need are more people. I need people on the ground. I need like a like a structured thing that where everybody can kind of use. If you're good at marketing, if you're good at doing web design, if you're doing radio, if you're doing podcasts, if you're a good speaker, if you're an author, whatever your skill set is, having this universal philosophy and then utilizing whatever gifts and abilities you have for the greater good. That's what I need. I need more people to know about this. It just needs to get out there. I mean, this is partly what I've been trying to do with you guys, and all the work I do online. So
yeah, I think, to be honest, with religion, it's more about like trying to dictate a person to actually join in the religion, and I think it shouldn't be about focusing to try and get those people in. I think it should be about a person's choice to go for that religion rather than getting forced into it. So that's how I kind of think. I think in a way pantheism kind of would fit in the good way of trying to help people, because it gives them a choice, doesn't it? So
well, sure. Like historically, religions. I mean, that's what the Catholic Church did for hundreds of years. Is they did anything they could to just gain converts. That's why there's so much paganism involved in Catholicism and even in Protestant Christianity. But like it's because they were just trying to get as many the numbers, because they were trying to get as many people as they could. It was all about acquiring, wealth and power and control. But no, what I'm seeking to do is create something that is beautiful and is just sort of shining and is appealing and attractive to the inclinations that people already have, to the ideals and the direction that they're already moving in. And then I want to show them there is something that exists that fulfills all that meets that criteria, because every movement now that I see is biocentric. It's earth-based. It's all about environmental awareness. It's all about it's a do-it-yourself sort of philosophy. It's you've heard a million times, I'm not religious but spiritual. I don't categorize myself as anything. I don't classify myself as anything, but I believe in a higher power. I believe in a oneness, and we're all connected. And so much of it is pantheistic, but they've never even heard the word pantheism. So it's almost like I don't need to use the word pantheist. I actually don't even like the word very much, because it has the word theism in it. And so people equate it to the theistic religion. They say, well, isn't it just another form of theism? You just worship nature. So I could throw out the word pantheism and just call it something else,
Yeah, I agree. Because, see, here's the thing is, like you said, pantheism is just like, God is all or God is the universe. So that's not enough. And atheism, which is like there is no God, that's not enough. So those basically are so vague and leave so much room that can go
Sure.
wrong. But at the
And I could
same
add to that humanism. Yeah, humanism also. Secular humanism is a great movement, and it's opposing, sort of the religious institutions and the way religions have tried to manipulate and dominate things. But it doesn't have a focus of direction. It's too broad. It's humanistic. We say, well, that's as opposed to something being supernatural. We have this humanistic focus. We're not deriving our morals and ethics from a spiritual, supernatural realm or metaphysical. It's human centered, but that's not enough, because it doesn't. Then you have to think about life. We have to think about all the other organisms around us, and the planet and the biosphere and the ecosystem. So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Chandler, but I just want to interject that there are many movements, but they're incomplete, so to speak.
Yeah, and here's something else I wanted to say. While they're incomplete and too vague and open to interpretation, traditional religions like Christianity and Islam and Judaism and all that, they are not open to interpretation at all, really, because to be part of that religion, like, you've got to accept the whole Bible or the whole Quran as absolute literal truth, meaning that you've got no wiggle room. So it's either be locked into a system where you have to conform 100%, otherwise you're evil and go into hell. It's either that or you end up with this nebulous, vague thing that doesn't do any actual good.
Right.
So both extremes are bad, and we need that homeostasis, as you would say, Poffo.
There it is, man. You got to have that balance. And there are many within, like, my groups who claim, they claim that the liberals and the progressives and sort of the mystical traditions within each of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are the answer. Like sort of the reinterpretation, the Aldous Huxley, the perennial philosophy, is they're drawing the good from all these different ideas and stuff, and they're rejecting the archaic and the outmoded notions. And I don't necessarily agree with them, because the fundamentalism will always be there, as long it still gives credence to the organization, the institution, the religion, the mythology, the holy books. It's still giving credence to that. But what I'm talking about specifically is, like, Gnosticism in Christianity, or Kabbalah in Judaism, or Sufism in Islam, and there are many mystical traditions, and there are many sort of reinterpretations that are not as literal, and they oppose the fundamentalist aspect of it, and they're just using the motifs and the personifications, and they sort of believe, but then they also have their own spin on it, and that's fine. But I just don't. To me, I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't think it's the answer. I just want to scrap all that and start over. Start from scratch. Let this be something that is just literally based on, present, a modern mentality, awareness of the natural world, instead of going backwards, because then you'll always have room for the superstitions and for the myths and these things. And I don't necessarily, agree with that. I don't think that's the way, but I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe they're helping us. The progressives and the liberals and the moderates, in terms of religion, are at least they're better than the fanatics, and the militant Islam or Orthodox Christianity. So.
Yeah, I think maybe so. I mean, I think there's different interpretations of that as well. Like, some people would say, yeah, the moderates are better than the fundamentalists in some cases. But at the same time, there's another criticism I've heard, is that those moderates, in a sense, they're not, like, really sincere in a sense, because it's sort of like, well, this is more of my personal sort of a thing. So, where it seems dishonest, because they're claiming to be a Christian or a Muslim, and it seems so people will think that they believe like the other Muslims, the other Christians, the other Jews, or whatever, and they're still calling themselves by that label, and yet what they are is very much different. And see, I went through this time where I wasn't an atheist. I was still sort of religious, but I quit calling myself a Christian because I didn't want to deceive people into thinking I was a real Christian. Because I got the idea that a real Christian believes the whole Bible and believes in hell and all those things. So
essentially, yeah, with the Abrahamic faiths, I mean, the religions themselves are based in the text, in the holy books. Okay, so if you're denying those holy books, if you're denying the content, and the claims, these extraordinary claims that are there, then you can't really associate yourself with, and you shouldn't, and you should be honest about it. I agree. So what I'm saying is, like, why don't we just call it what it is? These are legends. This is mythology. This is superstition. It has no relevance or bearing whatsoever on, in modern life. So, like, why are we still clinging to it? I'll tell you why they're still clinging to it: for the pageantry. It's for the aesthetics. It's for the warm fuzzies. Everybody loves, the Christmas carols and the beautiful cathedrals and the rituals and all this stuff. So why don't we take all that, not take it from them, but I'm saying let's create our own rituals, and let's create our own pageantry, and let's create our own aesthetics that are actually more specific and more accurate. And that's exactly what I've done with biopantheism. I mean, that's exactly what I'm doing, is I'm trying to distill and draw out the best parts of religion, the things that actually connect with people on a deep fundamental level, but at the same time, drawing their attention away from the supernatural realm and away from these myths and stories and fables, to just embracing reality as is. But we can have a mystical experience without sort of espousing mysticism.
Yeah, and
we can have,
there's one other reason that I think people still cling to these religions is, even though they don't really believe those holy texts, at least not a lot of the stuff in there anymore. I think there's a reason why people want to cling to religion. They want to believe in an afterlife.
Yeah,
They
good
really
point.
want to believe that there is a part of them that will live and exist forever and still go on and live in some way. Because I don't think that they can truly accept that the self is an illusion. Because even though I know the self to be an illusion, I think people have a hard idea with the no self, no soul, no free will thing, that there's really no you. And religions play on that sense of self.
You live on, but not in the same coherent form. Life always continues to recycle itself
Who
and
just
move
left?
on. I think it was Anthony. He dropped. You live on, but life recycles, and it's not the same coherent form. Like who you are, your personality, your identity, until we find evidence that says otherwise. That's the reality of it. But what if point by point we actually sort of countered each of these myths and said, you want to live forever? Write a book. Okay? You want to live forever? Like pass on your influence, your ideals. Like, do something that's gonna actually benefit society, and your name will be remembered, and you will be immortalized. That's how you make yourself immortal, is by contributing, doing something great that actually benefits the world, and you will become a legend. And that will motivate people. That motivates people to do the best they can, and to actually dig in and reach their greatest potential. And point by point, I could say, you believe in hell? Well, let me tell you something. Hell exists, and hell is this planet. Like, once we destroy all the natural resources, if we destroy all the natural resources, we separate ourselves from nature, and we're in these concrete sort of prisons, and there's no clean air, there's no clean water, there's no fruit and vegetation, and all the wildlife and species, this multitudinous glorious incredible system that we live in, like, it is destroyed and is wiped out with extinction, with because we're overpopulating, because we're overfishing, overforesting. Well, you're turning this earth into a hell. And there is also a heaven, and it's this earth. This earth can be your heaven if you make it such, if you work together, if you recognize the divine within all things, and you actually care for the planet, if you become a good steward of the earth, if you protect Mother Gaia, and treat this planet as your home, instead of just a temporary like a train station where you decide where you're going to go. We're going to spend eternity. It's temporal and it's transitory. It's not. This earth is our home. Our lives are transitory, so we got to do the best we can and make the most impact in a positive way here and now, and we can make this world a heaven.
Yeah, I agree with that, because that's what heaven or hell, the real heaven or hell is what we make it. But yeah, I agree with what you said fully, because I've said previously that Basically, knowing that I won't live forever in the same coherent form, and that my memories and experiences will be gone unless they are written down or recorded, is why I'm so active producing so many shows, why I did all the writing I did, because it is my attempt at preserving what I've learned in my life. That's why I feel that atheists and pantheists tend to be more activist. Like, I'm not worried about my reputation, for example, because I'm going to be stardust again, like I was to begin with.
Worm
We all
food
were.
first, worm food first, and you probably fuel, mushrooms and plant life, depending on how you're buried. And then go right back to the dust, man. And
Exactly.
You and I, Chandler, we will never have children. Okay, so this is our legacy, man. Like, it's our words, it's our ideas.
Pretty much.
Yeah, you could say our ideas are our children in a metaphorical
that's
sense.
That's how we live forever, man. Is through our influence and through the people we affect and through the groups, the organizations that we establish, and the good that we do on this planet. And it could just be, from the smallest minute thing, that might seem mundane, helping in a soup kitchen, rescuing, rehabilitating animals, helping healing the sick and the hurting, whatever you're doing, man, you just got to do something to contribute. And it seems like it's all for nothing because we're all going to die anyway, but everything we do affects everything else. Okay. And someone will benefit and someone will remember it, and it'll be talked about. So you can live on in that way. And the memory of the Omnia, it goes from life to life to life, man. Every single, genetically, biologically, it gets passed on. If you are having children, it gets passed on. And so, I am a product of my mother and my father. I carry on their genes, and those qualities and character traits and everything that makes up who I am, I pass on. Even if not genetically, I pass it on. I have my own, little sort of groupies and disciples that look up to me, and people that have throughout my life, that want to emulate me. And so I have children. I am passing on, my character traits to others. And the greatest way to do that, I believe, is through art, through storytelling, through speaking, and through activism, and connecting and communicating with others. And that's what we're doing right now. That's what all this is about, man.
Yeah, absolutely. You could say that. Let's see, what's the term for this? We're passing on our
memes. That's
our
what
memes. But I was gonna say something else. Like, let's see, we're passing on our mental DNA, you might say, not just our biological DNA.
Yeah.
Because when you reproduce the old-fashioned way, you're transmitting your DNA to be used in new organisms. But we have a different kind of DNA, sort of. What our work, our ideals, we're passing them on as DNA to future generations through having it all recorded. And I'm going to be real serious here and say that the only reason that humans have been able to progress as far technologically, scientifically as they have was due to inventions like, the ability to write down stuff, and then the printing press, and then of course we started having audio and video recordings and the internet. And so we improve, the better we're able to preserve information. That people can spend their whole life with something, write down a book or whatever, and then some young person can actually grasp onto ideas that somebody else took almost 100 years to discover. So that's how we make progress, because if it were not for writings and recordings, we wouldn't make any progress whatsoever. We'd all know nothing.
There's a great quote. I'm not gonna mess it up, by Carl Sagan, though, and he talks about what an amazing thing that a book is. You look at these little squiggly lines, and you're instantly transported back in time. I guess this is my paraphrase, but and you get into the mind of a person who may have lived, like centuries before, and like you're communicating information, and you're passing on that person is alive again. Whether it's Shakespeare or Pythagoras. Well, we don't have anything written by him, but say Spinoza or someone like that. like we pass on, ourselves, our ideas in all these different ways. And I think that's the greatest thing that we can do in contributing is by passing on the highest ideals, the greatest aspirations of our heart. So if I could kind of bring it back around, I want to talk about on my podcast what it is that allows a person to tap into those highest ideals. Like really what inspires people, what motivates and inspires people. And I think it's music and poetry and art and time spent in nature and even relationships and stuff like that. All these things, can be motivating factors and serve as the impetus to higher thinking and higher living. That's what I'd like to promote and encourage.
Yeah, and that's kind of a good preview of what people can expect when you get your Sacred Places podcast started. But since, as far as this Impersonal Opinion episode goes, now Anthony and George already left. I think we're at a pretty good place to end this one. If you think so, or.
Man, you know me, I could talk forever, but yeah, if you want to keep it succinct,
I'm just thinking because we've shared so many good ideas, and
sure.
From this point on, if we kept continuing, it would just decline because we can't top what we've already said.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Let's make it succinct and concise, and wrap it up. I mean, you shared a lot of good stuff too, man. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, this has been great. Okay, so you've been listening to the Impersonal Opinion podcast, and it's been a bunch of us co-hosts talking about the things we do in our lives, the causes we promote, the ways we're trying to make a better world, and then after that we got into trying the idea of unifying it all, bringing it all together, and a biocentric ethic, and starting a new alternative to religion. I mean, these are all great things we talked about, and I hope this has inspired you. And yeah, I mean, hope you've enjoyed, and there's going to be plenty more where that came from, but another time, because right now I'm tired. I don't know about you.
I could go all night, man. This is what I do. So
yeah, Poffo never sleeps.
I don't. I'm tapped into something. I don't know what, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks though. Thanks for the time, and I do appreciate it. And it's always a pleasure.
Yeah. And so thanks again for joining us, Poffo. And I guess that's the end of this episode. But after we have one more final from WSD, then I'll end it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for listening, everybody. Goodbye.
Take care. Thanks.
Stay safe.